I stood up, walked to the window, and stood on my tiptoes to see out of it. The sky was completely dark now, but the street was lit up by several streetlights. In the dim lighting, I could see 2 different tow trucks from Toby's towing service, towing my Mustang and Stephen's truck past the police station and down the street to their shop. Suddenly, the phone on the desk rang. "That liar, I knew those phones weren't broken," Derek yelled out. Tiny swallowed what was in his mouth, grabbed his nightstick, stood up and yelled, "Shut up, you punk, or I'll give you something to yell about." "Pig," Derek mumbled to himself and continued scratching the wall. Tiny then sat down and answered the phone. "Yes, sir, right away, sir," he said into the receiver, then hung up the phone. He threw his food container away, opened the top left drawer of the desk, grabbed a small set of keys out of it, then stood up holding his nightstick and began walking down the walkway toward our cells. "Mitchell, Ramsey, Simodowski, Bellington, Hopper," he said in a deep, menacing voice. "Charges have been dropped. There's someone here to see you." "Who? No one knows we're here," Stephen said. "I don't know. You'll find out when you get up there. Now let's go," Tiny said as he unlocked the jail cell doors and we all walked out. "What about me?" the suit monkey guy said. "I've been here for 3 weeks. I didn't get a phone call and I don't even know my charges. I haven't seen a judge yet. Why are you keeping me here?" Tiny then took his nightstick and hit it hard against the bars of his cell. "Shut your mouth, or I'll bash your head in. Your time's coming," he yelled at the guy. The man backed up quickly and sat down on his cot, and as I walked by his cell on my way upstairs, I took a good look at the man. Mid-40s maybe, black hair, wearing a white button-up shirt, a black jacket with black pants, and a red tie hanging loosely around his neck. He also had a pair of black dress shoes on. He held something dark in his hand, but I couldn't see what it was. We got to the bottom of the stairs when Tiny said, "Go up, rattle the door, and someone will let you out." We did this, and the female officer unlocked the door, shook her head, grabbed her jacket off the back of the chair and said, "Good night, Sheriff." Turning back to us, shaking her head again, she left. And in retrospect, I think she was trying to tell us something. But anyway, we all walked into the main part of the police station. "Man, let's get the hell out of here," Corey said. "Yeah, before they try and lock our asses up again," Derek remarked. We all nodded our heads and began to walk towards the door. "Not so fast, boys," Reggie said. "There's a stipulation to your release." "What the hell does that mean?" Stephen asked. "Brain cells, boys, brain cells," Reggie commented and laughed. We all turned to our left to see Reggie sitting at his desk, laughing, holding a large stack of $100 bills, which he then formed into a fan and began fanning himself with. He then tossed our IDs to the side of the desk, and Derek grabbed the pile, handing each of us ours. "You boys are worth a lot of money to this guy," he said, pointing at the bulletin board. We all turned our heads to look at it, and standing there with his back to us was a heavy-set guy wearing brown loafers, a pair of white socks pulled all the way up to his knees, a pair of beige khaki shorts, a hideous Hawaiian-styled flowery shirt and a straw hat that had a thick light blue ribbon around it. He looked like some old tourist from Florida. "Gentlemen," he said, in a low gravelly voice as he turned around. He had a rather striking resemblance to Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick, complete with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Now Bunny Carlos is a cool-ass dude, but this guy, however, looked like some creepy white van driving, pet my puppy, used car salesman from Florida. He took a drag on his cigarette, blew out the smoke and walked towards us. "It's so nice to finally meet you all. I've heard so much about you," he said happily, which somehow made him more creepy. "Who the hell are you?" Corey said aggressively. "Oh, I love your attitude," he said. "The name's Robert Belts, with 1 L and 1 Z, but you can call me Bob," he smiled. He shook his head excitedly then. "And you are Derek Mitchell, Stephen Ramsey, Cornelius Simodowski, Richard Bellington and Michael Hopper. pointing at each of us one by one. "Did I get that right? Your names and all?" "Yeah, man, calm down," Derek said. Bob took another drag on his cigarette, and exhaling he put it out with the bottom of his shoe, then put the butt in the pocket of his shorts. "I can't," he replied. "I'm just so excited to finally meet you guys." "Why us?" Stephen asked. "We are about to make beautiful music together," he said. "Whoa, dude, we don't roll like that," Ricky said, with a nervous look on his face. "Not like that, you idiot. I'm the owner of Hellfire Records. I want to sign you to a contract," he responded. "How did you know we were even a band? We've only jammed together once and haven't even played our first gig yet," I said. "Yeah, our first gig is next Saturday. They're paying us $500, Derek announced. Bob chuckled. 500? "Don't worry about that gig, boys. You're not going to make it. Besides, if you sign with me, you'll be playing many more gigs that pay a lot more money." "Now to answer your question," Bob said, pointing at me. "A very old friend of mine told me all about you and where to find you. You come very highly recommended," he replied. "I've never heard of your record label, so why the hell should we go with you?" Derek asked aggressively. "More attitude, I love it. We're a small independent label, but we distribute worldwide. And well, let's see. You have one of two choices here, boys. One, you can stay here and return to your nasty, disgusting jail cells and try to avoid a prison sentence when you talk to the judge on Monday. Or two, you can go with me," he said. "The choice is yours. I'll wait. And besides, I just spent a load of cash on you guys. That should count for something, right?" We all looked at each other, shrugged our shoulders and looked back at him. "I don't have anywhere else to go," I said. "Bust it wide open, right, Derek?" "Hell yeah, man," he said. "Rock and roll." "Yeah," the rest of them responded in unison, then high-fived each other, Derek and I as well. "Excellent choice, boys," Bob said, smiling. "I'm going to miss my pops, though," Ricky said sadly. "Oh, don't worry, boys. It'll only be for about a week or so. Then you'll come back and continue on with your lives. Well, at least until the tour starts," he assured us. "Tour?" we all said in unison. "We don't even have an album out," Stephen said. "Oh, but you're going to," Bob said, nodding his head furiously. "In 1 week?" Stephen replied. "There's no way." Boys, we can talk about that later. Right now, let's get you out of here. Right this way." He motioned towards the door. We walked over to it. Bob opened it and held it open for us as we all walked out into the shadows of the night. I love that song. Pat Benatar rocked. She wasn't metal, but she could have been. "Anyway, right around the corner here, boys," Bob said, and walked to the side of the building. We followed. "Ta-da!" Bob said, sounding like a big goober. "Your chariot awaits." We reached the side of the building, turned to our left, and there, right in front of us, was the longest, blackest and coolest jet black stretch limousine that I have ever seen. Bob tapped the back passenger side window. We heard the doors unlock, and Bob opened the door as we all stepped inside. Derek went first. I had never seen anything like that before. It had wrap-around all-leather seats, tinted windows, recessed lighting, a small water cooler with little paper cups on the side, 2 reclining chairs towards the front, one on each side of the limo, a mini fridge with a glass door, stocked full with bottles of Budweiser in between the chairs. It had a coffee pot on the top of the fridge, with a large can of Maxwell House sitting beside it, as well as a small metal tray with filters, 2 small cream and sugar containers, styrofoam cups and a spoon. There was a black push-button phone hung on the wall near the passenger side chair, and a small digital clock with red numbers hung on the wall near the driver's side. It also had a large island-like table in the center, with multiple cartons of cigarettes and about 20 bags of various drugs. There were multiple bags of weed, with a couple stacks of rolling papers, and a pile of lighters next to them. Several bags of all different colored pills, all mixed together, about 5 or 6 hypodermic needles filled with some kind of liquid, a pile of blue flexible plastic straps, like they used when you get blood drawn at the hospital, and sitting next to them was a huge brick of white powdery substance, which I'm sure was not sugar or flour. And that's right. Loud, but not too loud, metal music playing through the speakers. "Holy Mother of God," Derek said as he got in and sat down. "Whoa," we all remarked, as we each got in and sat down as well. Bob was last to enter, shutting the door behind him, and he took a seat in one of the recliners. "Welcome to Hellfire Records, boys. There's more where this came from too," he announced. "This is all for us?" Stephen asked inquisitively. "Hell yes. Call it an incentive," Bob said, smiling. "Have at it, boys. We got a long ride ahead of us." Then he knocked on the tinted glass that separated the driver from where we were sitting. "Who's driving this thing?" Ricky said, as he and Stephen got up to get a beer. Ricky grabbed a pack of smokes as well. "No need to worry about that," Bob replied. "It's a party after all. Isn't that what rock and roll is all about?" At that point, the limo began to move. "Does that phone work?" Ricky asked. "Yes, it does, and you can call anywhere in the world for free." "Cool, I gotta call my pops," Ricky said. So we got up, went to the phone, picked it up and punched the numbers in. A few seconds went by, then Ricky said, "Hey Pops, it's Richard. Mikey and I are going on a road trip with the rest of the guys. The band." "Yeah, Pop, my head bopping buddies." "I'll be gone for about a week or so. Are you going to be okay at the store without me?" There was a long pause. "Okay, Pop, I will. I'm not sure exactly where we're going, but if they have a souvenir shop, I'll get you a coffee cup." "Okay. Bye, Pop. Love you." Then Ricky hung up the phone and went back to his seat. "Oh, how sweet," Bob remarked as Ricky passed. "Shut up," Ricky replied. Bob snickered. "Everything all right, man?" Derek asked. "Yeah, Pops is cool with it." "Awesome, dude. Let's party," Derek yelled. Corey and Derek grabbed a bag of weed and some papers. "We don't do that hard stuff, man," Corey said. "We just like to get toasted and mellow out." "Yeah," Derek remarked. "Put that crap away." Bob removed the brick, the needles and straps, and the bags of pills from the table and put them in a drawer underneath the recliner. Then Derek and Corey rolled a few joints and got wasted, laughing for no reason. Stephen and Ricky chain-smoked and got completely wasted drunk until they both passed out, with Ricky's head falling back against the window. Stephen's head fell into Ricky's lap, and I wish I had a camera at the time as it was hilarious. Even Bob snickered. I made a pot of coffee, drank it and relaxed, and we all talked, told jokes, rocked out to the music, laughed and had a good time. Then at one point Bob looked at me and said, "Don't you want any of these incentives, young man? They're free." "No thank you, I'm not a partier, I'm good with coffee," I replied. "You're going to be the hard sell, aren't you? There's always one in the group," Bob said in a snippy tone, and just sat there watching what was going on, looking over at me on occasion. 2 hours and 37 minutes went by when the phone suddenly rang. Bob picked it up and said, "Very well, thank you," then hung up. Boys, wake up, pay attention, we're here," Bob said, grinning. Stephen slowly lifted his head off of Ricky's lap, just as Ricky lifted his head off of the window and said, "Dude, what you doing?" Surprised and half awake. "I guess I passed out," Stephen mumbled, wiping his lip. "On my lap though, dude. That's so uncool," Ricky stated, sliding away from Stephen. We all laughed, even Bob, and the drool on Stephen's lip made it even funnier. "That was so funny, man," Corey said, stoned out of his mind. Then he and Derek laughed uncontrollably. Boys, Bob said sternly. "Look at me." All 5 of us did as we were told. Then Bob snapped his fingers, and immediately after, Corey, Derek, Stephen and Ricky sat up at full attention, and I just sat there. Talk about a buzzkill, man. Stephen said. "What the hell was that?" "Shut up," Bob said, his voice deep with hints of anger in it. His eyes were now cold and screaming with seriousness. "You boys have had your fun. Now it's time for business. Get out," Bob instructed harshly. Corey opened the door and we all piled out of the limo. It must have looked like the parking lot scene from the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High, with all the smoke pouring out. But no, that's not the best part of that movie. We all know what the best part actually was. And if you don't, watch the movie and you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, there we were, all 5 of us, standing on the side of some old back road surrounded by trees, illuminated by moonlight and covered in fog. "Where are we?" Derek said, looking around. "No idea," Stephen responded, doing the same. We all were. "Boys," Bob said sternly from behind us. We turned around to see Bob leaning out of the limo door that we'd gotten out of. "Go straight through those trees there for about 20 feet, and you'll come to a clearing. Step into it and wait," he said. Then we all turned back to look at the trees, turned back to the limo, and it was gone. Completely gone. No sign of it anywhere. Not down the long stretch of road to the left, not down the long stretch of road to the right either. Nowhere. Just vanished into thin air. "What the hell?" we all mumbled to ourselves. Suddenly the wind began to howl as the trees swayed back and forth, and vultures began circling around in the skies, cawing and diving down fast, then swooping back up. The fog was growing thicker by the second, and my mind shot back to that dark, foggy forest that I'd seen in the dreamscape as the rain began to fall hard, very hard. We all tried covering our heads with our arms as we ran into the trees, and we all stood next to each other on the side of the road before we entered the trees. However, once inside, the others all disappeared. I could hear each of them calling out to the other 4. I heard all of them yelling in unison, and I started doing the same as I began moving forward. It was pitch black in there, no moonlight shining down, nothing, not even fog. Then I began to hear low growling coming from all around me. Little white lights then began to appear to me from the tops of the trees, in the branches. I heard the sound of breaking twigs then, as if something heavy was stepping on them and heading in my direction. I began walking faster. I removed my arms from the top of my head once I realized it wasn't raining in the trees, which was impossible. But with everything that had happened in the last week or so, it didn't really surprise me. Anyway, what Bob said was about 20 feet, but it had to have been much more than that. I walked in complete darkness, seeing those lights, hearing the growling, tripping over tree roots and falling branches for about an hour. I fell down several times until I began to see a dim red light coming through the trees about 10 feet ahead of me. I forged ahead, reaching the end of the trees and the entrance to the clearing, and the red light, which was actually a beam of light, appeared to be coming from the direct center of the clearing and shining upwards from the ground. The intensity of it was blinding. I covered my eyes with my right hand as I stepped into the clearing, and the second I did so, the light disappeared, the growling stopped, and the lights in the treetops were gone. I was standing in the clearing, moonlight shining down, all by myself.
Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed my video. And if you did, could you please give me virtual hugs by subscribing and clicking that notifications button. I also have a Patreon page and YouTube channel membership if you'd like to support me further. Thank you again for being here. Keep being creepy.